The coronal heating paradox. The principle is simple, that causes the high temperatures that occur in the sun's corona. The effect that has been measured is the same as if the corona had been heated to 2 or 3 million degrees. The so-called heating results from electric plasma interaction with atomic elements in the corona. The same effects caused the solar winds too to become visible. During a total solar eclipse, the solar winds and the corona surrounding the sun can be seen with the naked eye. In the standard internal fusion theory, the superheated corona poses a huge problem. It should not be possible by this theory for plasma that is deemed to flow away from the sun to be up to 450 times hotter than the sun itself is. Exotic theories have been spun around the paradox created by the internal fusion doctrine to save the doctrine. On the electric platform, however, such a paradox does not exist. The superheated corona is not a paradox there, because in the electric universe, the superheated plasma in the corona does not originate with the sun at all. It is a part of the external supply stream for the sun that enables the electric fusion process on the solar surface. Interstellar plasma streams are focused around the sun by the primal fields. This concept has been verified in static experiments by David LaPointe and in high-energy dynamic experiments by Anthony Parrott at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. The superheated corona can be seen as an external layer of plasma focused onto the sun by the primal fields. The extreme heating that is evident does not come from the sun, but results from the agitation of atoms in dense concentrations of incoming plasma that is magnetically confined, spatially compressed, and kinetically activated, which together create an intense thermal environment. The corona is not the solar wind. The accelerating solar wind paradox. Under the internal fusion theory for the sun, the solar wind that we see shouldn't be happening at all, and should definitely not be accelerating away from the sun against the force of gravity. Under the standard solar theory, the acceleration of the solar wind is a paradox. The very existence of the solar wind under this theory is a paradox. It should not be possible for anything flowing away from the sun against the sun's enormous force of gravity to accelerate away, much less to reach speeds up to 800 kilometers per second. Still, this impossible happens. In plasma solar physics, however, the phenomenon of accelerating solar wind is not a paradox. It is expected. It would be surprising if it didn't happen. The solar wind originates in the confinement domes of the fusion reaction cells on the surface of the sun. When the magnetic barrier is breached, the escaping wind particles form a plasma jet. The plasma jet tunnels through the corona in electromagnetically self-confined streams similar to Birkeland currents. Within the streams, the plasma particles push each other apart with the immense force of electric repulsion and accelerate each other as they expand explosively for some distances, to typically 800 kilometers per second. When plasma becomes highly concentrated under the magnetic confinement domes of the reaction cells on the surface of the Sun, and the plasma pressure under the dome exceeds the confinement field strength, some of the highly compressed plasma leaks through the confinement field and is suddenly free to move, to expand, to explode. When plasma is compressed, it is compressed against the repelling force of the protons to one another. When the pressure is released, the repelling force drives the entire complex apart explosively. This means that the green protons would push each other apart with the strongest long-reaching force in the universe, which is the electric force. As a result, the spaces between the protons become larger, as in the blue example, and then larger again, as in the purple example. Fast-moving plasma streams generate a magnetic field around them that keeps the flowing stream narrowly concentrated, somewhat like a lightning bolt. The magnetic field tunnels through the corona, while the plasma particles push each other apart further and further. The process is similar to a bullet fired through the barrel of a gun, propelled by exploding gas. The difference is that plasma is propelled by the vastly stronger repelling electric force. Under the Big Bang model, where only gravity is recognized as a universal causative force, the solar wind shouldn't even be possible, as plasma streams are not recognized to exist. In the empty box of science deception, where plasma and its associated electric force and effects in the universe are deemed not to exist as an effective cosmic organizing impetus, the resulting constraint has imprisoned science to the task to rationalize an empty view of the world contrary to the obvious visual evidence. It is possible to break out from this box. Plato, the great science genius of more than 2,000 years ago, had illustrated the dynamics involved in breaking out from the imprisoned perceptions with his allegory of the cave in his book, The Republic. He illustrates the case of a prisoner who had been long conditioned by a small sense of reality, where nothing is actually real. And then one day he pokes his head over the barrier that he had left behind. He notes that his world had been a world of illusions. As he ventures further, he notes that he lives in a cave, and that the cave has an exit. As he ventures past the exit, he discovers that there exists a vast, bright world outside the cave of his imprisoned past. He finds the brightness painfully blinding at first, but in time he celebrates the light and his newfound freedom. Historic astrophysical evidence. Some amazing aspects of evidence take us far away from the currently accepted theory of the internally heated nuclear fusion-powered sun. including some evidence that apparently has no connection with electroastrophysics, like the Giza Pyramids. We have some extremely large items of evidence before us that relate to the Sun being externally powered, while the physical features of this evidence can no longer be seen. Some related evidence exists that suggests some truly gigantic features of large-scale plasma flow phenomena had once been visible. In today's electrically weak time, the once visible features can nevertheless be experimentally replicated in laboratory experiments. One aspect of historic evidence of large-scale plasma flow phenomena is found in the Giza Pyramids themselves. The most perplexing features of the pyramids is their amazing accuracy in the alignment of them with the line of the Earth's meridian that no one can actually see. The baseline of the pyramids is perfectly aligned with this physically invisible geographic orientation. These gigantic structures have been built with an accuracy in orientation of a mere 4 minutes of an arc, by which the Giza Pyramids have become the most accurately celestially oriented structures in the world. How has this amazing accuracy been achieved without a visible reference line for it? The evident answer is that some type of reference line had likely been clearly visible at the time when the pyramids were built. Researchers discovered that the orientation of the Sphinx is such that it would have faced its image in the stars, the constellation Leo, roughly 12,800 years ago. This alignment suggests that the pyramids were built at this early time. This distant time frame coincides exactly with the start of the gigantic rewarming of the Earth that marks the end of the last ice age and the start of the present interglacial period. If one utilizes the experiment-derived magnetically shaped dynamic flow geometry, which is shown here as an example for what may have been visible in the night sky in ancient times, and this would likely have been the case when the intensely powerful rewarming of the Earth began, then a bright reference line would have been established in the sky that would have enabled the builders to accurately orient their pyramids with that clearly visible reference line in the sky that would have indicated the direction of the meridian line. The line might have had a religious significance for the builders. With the sun positioned just below the horizon, the visible geometry in the night sky at a time when the geometry was perfectly vertical would mark the direction towards the geographic pole of our planet, and with it the direction of the meridian against which the pyramids have been aligned with this marvelous extreme accuracy that has been achieved. Experiments have indicated that the plasma structure in the sky would have been perfectly perpendicular to the ecliptic plane when it had been visible in times of strong plasma currents, whereby providing a celestial reference line. Of course, this reference line can no longer be seen today in today's weak electric environment. The idea itself for the building of the pyramids might have been derived from features of the plasma structure that might have been incorporated into the geometry of the plasma flow structure in some fashion. A further example of once visible plasma features is found in the more recent historic monument termed Stonehenge. The geometry that we see here matches the experimentally discovered geometry in plasma flows. We find this geometry amazingly accurately replicated in the layout of the Stonehenge monument. The monument's feature might have been visible during the interglacial optimum from a high latitude position. This means that the recently discovered features in high-energy plasma flow experiments had been clearly visible in the sky and have been replicated at the time in the form of a large monument for religious imperatives, perhaps. It has been discovered in high-power plasma flow experiments that strongly moving plasma streams become magnetically aligned into 56 evenly spaced filaments, or in lesser streams to fractions of this number, as it is seen in the case of the cross-section view of the plasma stream that is erroneously termed Supernova 1987A. The plasma flow experiment that had yielded the full complement of 56 filaments matches amazingly closely the basic layout of the Stonehenge monument. The position of the 56 plasma filaments discovered in the experiments matches the relative position of the monument's 56 orrery holes amazingly accurately. The orrery holes are pits that are believed to have served as sockets for a circle of large wooden poles. The close agreement of the construction of the monument with experiment-derived features in plasma flow geometry suggests that these plasma features were once seen in the night sky, possibly during the interglacial maximum when the plasma flow through the solar system would have been comparatively strong. We are presently at a deep low point on the solar intensity scale, so that the plasma features that were evidently once plainly visible are no longer visible. In fact, we are presently approaching a point in the ongoing electric weakening in the solar system where familiar features that are visible today, such as the solar winds, may in the near future no longer be visible either. Presently visible large plasma structures. Modern instrumentation has made it possible for gigantic plasma features to be seen that, in spite of their size, have remained invisible before. One of these newly detected features are two gigantic plasma structures that extend perpendicularly from the heart of the Milky Way galaxy across a distance of 25,000 light-years above and below the galactic disk. Long before this unique plasma structure became visible, the plasma explorer Hannes Alphen had theorized that for the visible part of astronomical dynamics, such as the galactic disk, must exist a causative force that corresponds with the known geometric features in plasma physics, and that these must be expressed in the galaxies including the invisible parts of the features. While many theories exist to interpret the phenomenon that NASA has discovered with advanced instrumentation, the only laboratory experiment that I know of that replicates in principle the observed phenomenon in the small is the primer field's geometry derived from high-energy experiments at the Los Alamos National Laboratory, conducted by Anthony Parrott. The experiment-derived geometry illustrates the galactic plasma structures to be magnetically confined concentrations of high-density plasma under what David Lapointe refers to as the magnetically created confinement dome. He explored the details of it in static laboratory experiments. The magnetic bowl structure that channels intergalactic plasma streams under the confinement domes of the Milky Way galaxy structure is evidently too weak to be visible with the currently available instrumentation. However, the large magnetic field structure that creates the confinement domes has become visible by its effects. The huge scale of the plasma structure that has become visible is evidently sufficiently large to have the type of effect that pinches the galaxies into an electrically aligned flat disk by electric repulsion from above and below, and by the magnetic fields that are associated with the gigantic plasma structures. The bowl-type magnetic field structure that the confinement domes are a part of may be much larger than the experiment-derived geometry illustrates. The magnetic field may be as wide as the galaxy itself. The inflowing plasma streams, of course, are presently invisible. The intergalactic plasma streams may remain forever invisible. Plasma can only become visible in light when the plasma particles agitate atomic structures that it encounters. Plasma streams can also be recognized by their electromagnetic dynamic effect on the alignment of stars and galaxies with one another. This alignment effect is discernible in the existence of groups of stars and galaxies that are frequently arranged into short or long strings lined up like beads on a thread, often with equal spacing between them. These invisible but discernible interconnecting plasma streams link small or large individual groups of galaxies into functionally connected larger dynamic phenomena, and so on. The string-bound groups, small and large, are visible everywhere, as far as our telescopes can reach. In some cases, the interconnecting plasma streams are strong enough to be faintly visible as light as they encounter atomic material in their path. When dense plasma streams encounter atomic elements, the electric interaction strongly affects the dance of the atom's electric swarms. It energizes the dance, whereby the atoms emit light, heat, and other forms of electromagnetic energy radiation. The agitating effect is the same as if the atoms had been heated to high temperatures by other forms of energy input. On our Earth, we see the same type of effect in the form of lightning. The effect that we see is the same as if the air had been heated to tens of thousands of degrees in the lightning stream, which evidently is not the case.